Have you heard of Flexible Server in Azure Database for Postgres? Learn more in this episode of Data Exposed. Hi, I'm Anna Hoffman, and welcome to this episode of Data Exposed. Today, I'm joined by Sunil from the Postgres team. Sunil, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. And before we get into the topic for today, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Sure. So I lead the program manager team for Postgres in Azure, and I've been with Microsoft for over 20 years, and I'm really excited to be part of this team.
Awesome. Cool. Very cool team. So today we want to talk about Flexible Server, and this isn't something I really know anything about. So I wanted to start by just asking you, what is Flexible Server for Azure Database for Postgres?
All right. And a flexible server is the next generation Azure database for Postgres, and it is based on a Linux operating system. And the reason this is actually very important is that Postgres engine was architected on Linux. So you can say that Linux is its natural habitat, and the flexible server is our offering on Linux operating system.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay. So can you tell me a little bit more about, what makes Flexible Server so exciting?
Yeah, actually, we are very excited about flexible server. And one thing I want to say a little bit of the background. The Microsoft released the first Azure database on Postgres, and that we called a single server, and that was released more than 2 years ago. And a single server, I'm going to use that term for simplicity. Single server has been a very successful offering for flexible server, and we have thousands of customers who have been running their workloads starting from like small businesses, mom and pop shops to enterprises. So, whole range of um, applications that leverage Postgres have been running very successfully in single server. And over the past 2 years, we have worked with many, many customers, understood their workloads, understood their challenges that they have with the single server. So what we have with the flexible server is all those learnings that we got with our customer interactions and sort of fold it into the flexible server so that we can have customers coming to flexible server with a much easier onboarding and running of their workload. So think about this. This is like all the learnings we have compressed into flexible server, and that's flexible server on Unix, on Linux operating system.
Awesome. Great. And so for this new Flexible Server, maybe customers want to start using it for their new applications. What about customers that are using single server today?
Right. So the customers who are using single server, they can continue to use single server. And but we recommend them to try out flexible server and take advantage of it, and to help customers migrate from single server to flexible server. We have been working on simplifying that migration. So we have a migration tool that can be used pretty much mostly automated to take your database from single server onto flexible server. And if the requirements are met, it can be done with a minimal downtime using Postgres replication.
Awesome. Great. That seems like a pretty smooth, hopefully, migration. And then for new customers, it's pretty easy. Would you recommend everyone kind of start with flexible server now moving forward, or still think about single server versus flexible server?
Right. So we highly recommend any customer who is thinking about creating a new application or onboarding Postgres server, we recommend them to just start with flexible server. This is our future, and this is what we want to recommend.
Okay, awesome. That's great to know, Sunil. So thanks for letting us know. Is there anything else or any tips, tricks, advice you have for customers either getting started with flexible server or thinking about moving to flexible server?
Yeah, so flexible server actually offers many of the exciting features, and maybe Anna, allow me to go through some of those
Sure,
features.
please.
Yeah. So the flexible server, one of the things that we learned through single server was that it needs to be developer friendly. So when you come to use flexible server, you can provision it with a single command with very few clicks. So we want to take the complexity out of provisioning and operating your Postgres database completely so that you can focus on your application. So that is first aspect. And a lot of our developers are very price conscious. They are trying to play with flexible server for within their budgets, right? So we offer, as an introductory offer, a free 12-month offer that you can Postgres flexible server that you can provision and play with it with no cost implication. So we are hoping with that you will give it a shot, give us a try, and run your application on flexible server. Other thing that we have done is we have offer a SKU which we call burstable SKU. This is our lowest price SKU that you can provision a Postgres server for $28. Once your free offer expires, you can switch to burstable, and it is $28 a month, a very low price. And the good thing about is when you develop your application on burstable, and if you want to go to higher SKU, which is like general purpose or memory optimized, you can just simply upgrade to those SKUs without worrying about any downtime. So they can just go up there. In third thing, to reduce the cost, we offer a capability where you can stop your server. If, so for example, if you look of a developer, right? Developers are working say 8 to 5, and once they are done developing and they want to sign up for the day, they can stop the server. When you stop the server, you're not paying for the compute, you're only paying for the storage that you're using. And next morning when you come, you can start the server. Again, free offer, burstable, and start and stop. You can lower the cost of using flexible server for development in a very significant way. And also, one of the things we are trying to do is to onboard newer versions of Postgres servers as they are released by the community. So our target is to release the new versions of Postgres on flexible server within 3 months of the community release. So that's that. In
Awesome.
other thing, Anna, we do is we are offering with the flexible server a much better out of the box performance. So think of this, right? When customers use Postgres, a lot of customers are hosting the Postgres themselves. They can create Postgres server on their on-premise machine, or if they want, they can create on a VM. So they have a good control on what configuration parameters they can set and how they connect to the Postgres server. Our goal with the flexible server is when you uh, want to move your application or Postgres server from IaaS or the VM onto flexible server, uh, our target is to give you very comparable performance of what you were getting on the VM. So the beauty of this one is then when you move your application to flexible server, you don't have to worry about managing the Postgres server because you have very comparable performance, and we take the complexity of managing your service automatically. That's that. Second thing that we have done is we have given an option to co-locate. In fact, that's what we recommend. You can co-locate your application on the same data center, if you will, as Postgres server. And this is important because within the data center in Azure terms, that is called availability zone. So you can provision your application, your flexible server, and your data into the same availability zone. And what that gives you is a very low latency, under 1 millisecond of round trip. So if you have applications that have such requirements, flexible server is your target. And the third thing that we have done to simplify the performance is we provide built-in connection pooler, PG bouncer in flexible server. So your application can continue to connect to the flexible server, and behind the scene in the service, we will do the connection pooling, which is very important for short running connections. So that's that, right? And then finally, we provide a much richer set of server parameters for configurability. So for example, max connections, you can configure max connections. You can configure your shared buffer memory. those kind of capabilities were not available in single server, and we heard from a lot of customers, hey, we want those kind of configuration parameters. So it's a much richer set. So as a developer, you have a very low cost offering. You have a much better out of box performance. And then the third thing that comes is, hey, how reliable this service is. Now with the Linux architecture running a flexible server on Linux, the architecture has become very simple for us. So there are very few moving parts. So it is very reliable. And we have many customers running their production workloads on flexible server. So that's that. And then we offer for high availability the zone resilient capability. What it means is that you can have a standby that is running in a different availability zone, which is a synchronous replication. What it means is if for some reason the availability zone of your primary node goes down, you can fail over automatically without any changes to the application to the standby, which will now become the new primary. So you have the much higher availability using zone resiliency. And the third thing that we have heard from customers, again, experience from a single server was, hey, I know there has to be maintenance done periodically on the service. And previously in single server, the customer had no control on when that maintenance is done, right? And each business is very different. So Anna, what we provided is now a capability where customers can choose, hey, I want to do this maintenance of my Postgres server, flexible server on Sunday night at 9 p.m. So then what happens is we can cater to your business requirements to provide that maintenance. So if you look from the reliability and availability perspective, much simplified architecture, zone resilient HA, and the maintenance window that customer chooses. So then the developer friendly out of box performance and high availability. And the final thing that comes, what about the security, right? Because people are concerned, hey, if I'm going to host my workload in the cloud, uh, it has to be very secure. So we
Right.
provide both in transit and on premise, in transit and at data rest encryption. So your data, when it comes from your client machine onto flexible server, it is encrypted. When it is stored inside Azure storage, it is encrypted. So we provide that. And we provide also the private access through injecting your Postgres service in your own VNet. So you have full control on whether your Postgres flexible server is it visible just within your organization, which is what you want to do, or it is a public API, right? So we provide those kind of things. And the third thing, which is also important from a security perspective, we are hosting flexible server in its own VMs. So it is in its own, each customer is running their flexible server in its own VM, completely isolated from other customers who are running their separate flexible server in their own VMs. So these are some of the things we have done for security. So we do believe with the developer friendliness, out of box performance, high availability, and security, you will choose flexible server as your platform for of choice when you come to Azure database for Postgres.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sunil. I love that explanation. And now, after you've explained it to me, it makes so much sense why you're saying, flexible server is our future. And we recommend, if you're creating a new database, you move towards flexible server and even consider migrating from single server to flexible server. Sunil, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been really informative for myself, as well as I'm sure for our viewers. We're going to put some links in the description for you to go learn more about flexible server. And if you like this video, go ahead, give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a comment to let us know what you think about flexible server. Again, thanks so much, Sunil, and we hope to see you next time on Data
Yeah, Anna,
Exposed.
thank you so much. And yeah, please feel free to contact me or Postgres team for any questions if you want to try flexible server.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.